Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome. So we will begin with the Guru Pranam and the Mangalacharan. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vigna Vinasha Narasimhaiti Namine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayatim Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Vinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram Om Tat Sat. So Hare Krishna everyone. So welcome back to our just a moment. So welcome to the Gita Gyan level 2. Just a moment. Okay. Okay. So Hare Krishna, welcome to our Gita Gyan level 2. So we are continuing with our Bhagavad Gita, Gita Mahatmya. This is from the Gita Mahatmya, Padma Purana. And we are now going to cover the story which is the glorification of chapter 10. So Lord Shiva tells to Parvati, my dear Parvati, I will now relate to you the glories of the 10th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, as related by Sri Vishnu to Lakshmi Devi, which in itself is a stairway to the spiritual world. So in other words, simply by hearing the glories of the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This is like going up the stairway to the spiritual world. So the story begins in a town, a very famous city in India. It's called Varanasi. So Varanasi has had several names. It's also called Kasi or Kashipuri. It's also called Banaras, right? So it's the oldest living city in the world. There are many historic cities, but they are all dead. Whereas Varanasi is the oldest living city, still alive. You go to Varanasi, you can still see thriving civilization, the same streets and everything. And it's mentioned that there are at least 23,000 temples in this city of Varanasi. So where is this Varanasi? Varanasi is somewhere in the middle of India. You can see here, and it's passing through the city is the famous Ganga River. You can see here. So many bathing ghats. Ghats means place, the steps they build for people to take bath in this holy river. So here you can see a picture of one of the bathing ghats in Kashi. This is the river Ganga. So very old city, old buildings. So many temples, as I said, 23,000 temples. But some temples are very old and very famous. So one of the most famous temples there is the temple of Kashi Vishwanath. So the Lord of Kashi, every city usually will have a deity, and the city of Kashi is very dear to Lord Shiva. So he is residing there as Kashi Vishwanath. So this is the temple, this ancient temple, but it has been rebuilt several times. So you can see, and this is Kashi Vishwanath Shiva. It's a Shivalinga in this temple. So Lord Shiva is telling Parvati, in this city of Kashipuri, there once lived a Brahmana. And this Brahmana's name was Dhira Buddhi. So Dhira means very sober, very grave, the behavior. And Buddhi means intelligence. So very serious, intelligent person. So his name was Dhira Buddhi. And this Dhira Buddhi was very dear to me, just as how Nandi, my carrier, is very dear. Now we know Nandi. Nandi is the carrier, the bull carrier of Lord Shiva. So just as how Nandi is very dear to me, in the same way, this Dhira Buddhi Brahmana in Kashi is very dear to me. Why? He was always peaceful, and all of his senses were fixed in the glorification of Sri Krishna. So here is evidence to show that if one is worshipping Lord Krishna, then all the devatas will at once become very dear to that devotee. The devotee becomes worshipable to all the devatas. So therefore, Lord Shiva will say, he was so dear to me that wherever this Dhira Buddhi would go, I would also go with him, and with great love, I will protect him. So that was what Lord Shiva was doing for this Dhira Buddhi. So seeing my activities, one of my eternal servants in Kailash, this is the place where Lord Shiva resides in Kailash. So he has many servants there, many eternal associates of Lord Shiva. And one of them, his name was Bringi Riddhi. Now Bringi Riddhi was a sage, and he was a devotee of Lord Shiva, an eternal resident of Lord Shiva. So, eternal resident of Kailash, serving Lord Shiva. Now this Bringi Riddhi, the sage Bringi Riddhi, he asked Lord Shiva, "Oh Lord Shiva, why are you always following this Dhira Buddhi Brahmana, and why are you serving him in this way? What kind of austerities this Dhira Buddhi Brahmana must have done for him to get such a benediction from you, for him to become so dear to you, right? What kind of activities did he perform?" So hearing this Bringiridhi's inquiry, Lord Shiva at once replied, once in Kailash, in Kailash Parvata, Parvata means mountain, Kailash, this is in earth, on earth, this is the name of the mountain in the Himalayas called Kailash. Now, this is just visible to our eyes only, but the real Mount Kailash is actually invisible, and it is somewhere in between the material world and the spiritual world. So it goes all the way there. But anyway, this mountain is also called Kailash. So in this place of Kailash where Lord Shiva resides, there are many gardens. So in one of the gardens called Punag, very beautiful area, I was enjoying sitting there under the moonlight, Lord Shiva is saying, and suddenly there was a great wind which caused the trees to shake with a very loud noise. And suddenly a shadow was cast around us along the mountain, and in the sky we saw a very large bird in the color of a rain cloud which appeared. So a very large bird in the color of a very grayish color, blackish grayish like a rain cloud, it appeared. And due to the flapping of its wings, it was causing the trees to shake and the dust to swirl. And suddenly the bird landed on the ground and offered its respects to me. And after offering respects, it offered me a lotus flower, a beautiful golden lotus flower. After which the bird said, "O Mahadev, all glories to you, the shelter of all. There is no limit to your glories. You are the protector of the devotees who have control over their senses. And you are the foremost of all. You are Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. You are Shambhu, who is the greatest of all the Vaishnavas. The greatest of all Vaishnavas, Vaishnavanam Yata, and that greatest person amongst all the Vaishnavas is you, Shambhu." So this bird was praising Lord Shiva in this way. So he continued these praises. Oh, even great sages, the great sages like Brihaspati. Brihaspati is Guru. You know, in the heavenly planets, the Guru of the Devatas is Brihaspati. So even Brihaspati is always chanting your glories. And even the 1,000-headed Anantasesh is not able to fully describe your glories. So Lord Shiva is a very great personality. He is in fact the transformation of Lord Vishnu. When Lord Vishnu embraces this material nature, that transformation is becoming Lord Shiva. So later we will talk about that at another time, the details about how the transformation of Lord Shiva. But anyway, Lord Shiva is a very, very great personality. He is not God, but he is as good as God. So there is only one God, the Supreme Lord, Vishnu or Krishna. And amongst all the Devatas, the greatest amongst them is Lord Shiva. Therefore, he is known as Mahadeva. So Mahadeva means the greatest of the Devatas. It's one of his names. And at the same time, though similar to Lord Vishnu, he is different to Lord Vishnu. So, and in this way, he is the greatest of the devotees of Lord Vishnu. So he's known as Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. So in this way, the bird goes on glorifying Lord Shiva. And then he says, I am just a small bird. I'm just a bird of small intelligence. I cannot fully glorify you. And in this way, it was going on. And then finally, after the bird stopped talking, Lord Shiva asked, "Oh, who are you? Where are you coming from? You look like a swan, and your bodily color is that of a crow." So of course, Lord Shiva knows what's happening, everything. But sometimes, this is Leela. They sometimes ask, even though they know everything. So then he's saying to this bird, you are so beautiful, yet you look like a swan, but you are darkish in color, like that of a crow. The bird said, oh, please understand, Lord Shiva, I am the swan carrier of Brahmadev. So, Brahma, he flies on a swan. He's like Lord Shiva rides on Nandi. So Brahma, he rides on a swan. So that swan or Hamsa, that Hamsa means swan in Sanskrit. So that Brahma Hamsa is this swan. So I am the swan carrier of Brahma. And the reason of my body having this blackish color, I will tell you why. So we all know that the swan of Lord Brahma is is white in color, like camphor. But how did this happen? So he told a story. So the swan said, just close to Shaurashtra, the ancient city of Shaurashtra. So it's still there now in India. This Saurashtra is called Surat. It's the capital of Gujarat, right? So in the ancient city that last time it was known as Shaurashtra. So there is one beautiful lake. And from this beautiful lake, this is where this heavenly golden lotus, which I gave you, came from. So what happened is I found this lake once as I was flying, and I had been enjoying in this lake for some time. Swans, they like to go in the lake. They like to play amongst the lotuses. So just as I was flying off from that place, what happened? Suddenly I fell down. So as he was flying, suddenly he fell down. And not only he fell down, his body became blackish from a beautiful, wondrous whitish camphor color. He fell down and he became blackish. And then as he was on the ground, he was thinking, how did I fall down? What happened? What I must have triggered some kind of a curse. I can't think of why I would be in this situation. So suddenly he heard a voice, and the voice was a very beautiful female voice. It was saying, oh swan, get up. I will tell you the reason why you fell down and why your body became black. So then come to the middle of the lake where you will see 5 golden lotuses. So the swan moved along the lake, and it went to the middle of the lake. It saw 5 beautiful, extraordinary golden lotuses. And suddenly these golden lotuses, from the golden lotus, a beautiful lady appeared in the middle of it. So, and then this lady started to speak. But before the lady started to speak, the swan circumambulated. It went around the lady in due respect, right? And then after that, the lady started to speak. She said, oh, black swan, while you were flying, you flew over me. You actually crossed over me. And due to this offense, your body has now become blackish. So it's not due to me causing that. It's not that I cursed you. It's just that if anyone crosses over me, above me, that person will have to fall down. So that was one of the benedictions given to me. So you have crossed over me. So that's why you fell down like this. So I'm sorry for you. I did not want you to go through this, so therefore I'm calling you, and I called you over here. And then she said, but don't despair. You have gained a lot of benediction from this, actually, because you fell down. Let me tell you the story of why I am actually in this situation, because she actually had to take the form of golden lotuses. But because you have crossed over me, it actually broke a curse which I was undergoing. I also was cursed. I was cursed to become these lotus flowers, these golden lotus flowers that you see, these 5 golden lotus flowers. So I was cursed until anyone crosses over me, and then the curse will be broken. So you have crossed over me, and now you have taken the brunt of the curse. You have absorbed the energy of the curse. So that's why your body became blackish and you have fallen down. And at the same time, I am released from this curse. So, but still, I have very great abilities. So this lady was telling, when I opened my mouth once, simply by inhaling the scent which was coming from my mouth, I was able to purify 7,000 black bees once. Because lotuses, they open and they close, right? So simply when the lotus opened once, there were bees around it. So throughout its life, 7,000 bees have come and gone from this lotus, and all of them have been purified simply by inhaling the scent of these lotuses, and they have all attained Vaikuntha. They have transcended the cycle of birth and death, and they have gone back to Vaikuntha. So she was telling, let me tell you how I was able to achieve this power. And now that my curse is broken, I am also able to attain Vaikuntha. So let me tell you what happened. How did I get this ability? So she says, previously I was born in a Brahmana family. This was 3 births ago. 3 births ago, I was born in a Brahmana family. And my name, I was just an ordinary person. And my name was Saroja Vadana. And she was a simple garland making lady. She made garlands. And my father had always instructed me very carefully in the principles of chastity. So chastity is faithfulness to the husband. How to be faithful to the husband. How to serve the husband in a faithful manner. That is called chastity. So in ladies, that is very, very important. And it's an important principle. And this is mentioned how she was very carefully taught by the father. And later when I got married, I served my husband very faithfully. But one day I found a myna. So a myna is a bird like this. This is a myna bird, a blackish brownish bird. And this myna was hurt and it had a broken wing. So I nursed it, I looked after it. And even after I nursed it, the myna developed love for me and it didn't go away. So it became my friend. So I also had a great affection for this myna. So in this way, I was more and more started to spend more and more time with this myna. And while I was doing this, I started to neglect my service to my husband. It became affected. My service to my husband became affected. And her husband was not an ordinary husband. Her husband was a rishi, a muni, a bit of a bad-tempered muni. So, but anyway, because of her neglect of taking care of her husband, one day she didn't serve him properly. There was when he wanted her, she wasn't there. So then, because of my neglect, my husband cursed me. He said, "Oh, sinful woman, because you have neglected my service for the sake of a myna bird, even though you were very carefully instructed of the art of chastity by your father, so you, O sinful woman, you will become a myna in your next birth." So this was the curse of the sage husband. So in this way, this lady, she became a myna in her next birth. But however, though due to the curse, she became a myna, but her pious, her punya karma also came with her. Her punya karma is because she was trying to be chaste. She did do a lot of service and she was properly brought up and everything. So due to my following the principles of chastity very strictly, the punya karma came with me, and somehow it brought me in contact with some sages. So, and these sages, they kept me at their ashram and they fed me. And one of the daughters of these sages looked after me and took care of me. And while staying there, every morning and evening, because I lived in that hermitage, I would hear whatever discourses the sages were giving. So, and what happened is every morning and every evening, they would be studying and chanting the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So in this way, I was hearing the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which was recited by the sages, and I could remember this very well. And after I died, immediately the curse was lifted from the sage, right? And I was elevated to such a high level, I became an Apsara. And Apsara is a heavenly lady. I attained heaven. I actually went to heaven, to Indra Loka, and amongst the heavenly denizens, I became a very beautiful Apsara by the name of Padmavati. And though I became an Apsara, a heavenly maiden, I could still remember the previous birth. I could remember what happened in my previous birth. And one day I was traveling in a flower aeroplane, and when I saw the beautiful lotus flower on this lake, so she came across a lake, the same lake where the swan came eventually in Surat. So I saw a beautiful lotus flower in this lake. Coming here, I started to enjoy in this water. I started to take bath over here. But while I was taking bath, she wasn't wearing any clothes while she was taking bath. So that was sinful of her. So while she was taking bath over there, a sage, this is not an ordinary sage, this is Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni is one of the incarnations of Lord Shiva, and he is a half incarnation, and he is known to be very angry. So he used to curse a lot of people. So a lot of people are very scared of this Durvasa Muni. So this Durvasa Muni came, and this Padmavati Apsara, she saw Durvasa Muni coming, and she realized her mistake. Oh, she has been bathing without clothes. So afraid that he will curse her, and it's too late to actually change into clothes and everything. So she immediately turned herself into lotus flowers. So she was so beautiful that she became golden lotus flowers. So her two arms became two lotuses, and another two legs became another two lotuses, and her body and her head became one big lotus. So like that, 5 lotuses started to grow in this. But it was too late. Durvasa Muni already saw. So with eyes, angry eyes, he cursed this lady yet again. So this is a second curse. Oh, sinful one, you will stay in that form of a lotus for 100 years. And after cursing me, he was leaving. But this lady, this Padmavati, she prayed, oh, please, is there a solution to this curse? Is there an end to this curse? Then he said, yes, when anyone crosses over you, flies above you, then your curse will break. And then he left and disappeared, and Padmavati became trapped in this form of a lotus. So while she was there for 100 years in this form of a lotus, she started to reflect about her previous life. How is it that suddenly I was a simple wife of a Muni, but then I was cursed by that Muni and I became a Maina bird. But after the Maina bird, simply by hearing the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, I became freed of that curse. Not only I became freed of that curse, I was able to attain heaven. Such great punya I was able to attain. Simply hearing that Bhagavad Gita. Because at that time, when she was a Maina bird, she couldn't remember her past life at that time. She was simply a dumb animal. And simply unconsciously she was hearing the Bhagavad Gita, and yet she attained heaven. And after attaining heaven, then she could remember her past life. So then she started to reflect, what was it that she heard? So she heard the Bhagavad Gita chapter 10. So slowly she was recollecting, and she was able to remember the verses of the Bhagavad Gita chapter 10. So she started, but she couldn't utter them. She could only think them because she was a lotus flower, right? So she didn't have the ability to utter them. So she was thinking in this way, and she realized in her mind, she was running through these verses of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10. So then she told the swan, so this is the story. So because you crossed over me, my curse was broken, and I am released of Durvasa Muni's curse. But at the same time, I have attained simply by remembering the Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 verses, I have now broken free from the cycle of birth and death. I was simply waiting for you to come to break the Durvasa Muni's curse. That's all. So now that it's broken, I have nothing to hold me into this earth. I don't even need to go back to the heavenly planets in Indraloka. I am now leaving to Vaikuntha Loka to attain the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. So, and then a beautiful heavenly aeroplane came from Vaikuntha and brought this lady, Padmavati, the Apsara, brought her back to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. So then, as she was leaving, she told the swan, so you too can be freed from this curse. So you are a swan now. So what you should do, go to Mahadev, Lord Shiva, and tell him this story, and by his blessings, you will also attain this the same destination of Lord Vishnu's lotus feet. So that was the story, and this swan told this story to Lord Shiva. So as soon as the swan told the story, one of the golden lotuses the swan had brought, and he offered that golden lotus to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva, being pleased by this swan, he blessed the swan and said, may you take a birth as a Brahmana on earth. And in this way, you will be able to continue with your dedication to chapter 10 Bhagavad Gita. So the swan immediately left its body and took birth on earth as a Brahmana. So that is the story of this Brahmana Dhira Buddhi. And that is why, because this Brahmana Dhira Buddhi is constantly every day chanting the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, I am also following him and being with him and protecting him in this way. So this Dhira Buddhi Brahmana was previously one of the swan carriers of Brahma. And now he is a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, Lord Vishnu. So therefore, when this Dhira Buddhi died after chanting the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he also attained the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Lord Vishnu. So that is the story of this pastime of this 10th chapter. So then Lord Shiva tells, whoever would hear that chanting from him, that Dhira Buddhi, would also attain the darshan of Sri Vishnu. So because the Dhira Buddhi was such a pure Brahmana, simply by other people hearing him, they would attain the darshan of Lord Vishnu. So therefore, I also followed with him together so that I may also benefit. So whoever hears chapter 10 Bhagavad Gita, they would quickly attain the darshan of Lord Vishnu, who is also known as Shankha Chakradhari, the one who holds the Shankha and the Chakra. Shankha is the conch, Chakra is the Sudarshan disc, the Chakra. So whoever would hear that chanting, whether they are fallen and addicted to intoxication or even killers of Brahmanas, they will become purified. They would become purified, and eventually they would also attain the darshan of Sri Vishnu, who is known as Shankha Chakradhari. So therefore, Lord Shiva concludes, my dear Parvati, whether one be male or female, sannyasi or grihastha, in fact, whatever situation one may be in, if he chants the 10th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, he will attain the darshan of Vishnu. So that is the story of this Gita Mahatmya, chapter 10. So it's a nice story. We can understand from here how simply by chanting the verses of the chapter 10 Bhagavad Gita, it is able to deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. No matter what situation, whether they are cursed in a cursed situation, or whether they are in a, that's why it says either female or male, sannyasi or grahastha, in any situation, if one is able to take up this this devotional service, particularly reciting Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, they can very quickly purify themselves and attain the Supreme Lord. So this is chapter 10's glory. So we will now go to the summary of this chapter 10. So chapter 10 is known as Vibhuti Yoga. Vibhuti means the opulence of the Absolute. So what are the opulences, the powers, the abilities of this? What is the greatness of the Supreme, in other words? So that is the chapter 10 all about. So it begins with chapter 10 by this verse, 10.1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna, because you are my dear friend. For your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained." Now, from chapters 1 to chapter 2, Krishna will tell Arjuna, don't despair, don't become sad. Understand that there is a higher purpose in life. Become a yogi. Continue to do your duty. So then from chapter 3 to chapter 6, Krishna will talk about the paths of yoga, the two paths of yoga. He will talk in detail about the jnana path, and then he will also give a little bit information about the bhakti path. And all the while encouraging Arjuna to you understand about the yoga paths, but go for the bhakti yoga path. He will encourage Arjuna in this way. And then after many questions, from chapter 7 all the way to chapter 12, Krishna will talk fully about bhakti yoga. So, and in chapter 7, he will introduce the concept of bhakti yoga. He will say, ultimately, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this bhakti is service to me. So if anyone takes this service to me, then they will attain me. So he says that in chapter 7. And then how will he attain me? How will they attain me? Simply by taking up devotional service. At the time of death, they will remember me. So when they remember me, they will attain me. Why is that? Because the rule of this, the law of this material nature is, while we are in this body, anything we remember at the time of death, that is what we will attain in our next life. So the time of death was very important. So this was stressed in chapter 8. So then in chapter 9, he talks further about this devotional service. So what are these devotional services about? So he gives a lot of practical instruction about devotional service. He gives his position as he tells Arjuna how to, what the position of the Supreme Lord is. So it was a very beautiful chapter. Chapter 9 and chapter 10 of the Bhagavad Gita is the heart of the Bhagavad Gita. So we should really, really read chapter 9 and chapter 10 again and again. It is very, very powerful. So after talking about devotional service in detail, now Krishna says, listen again. I am now going to tell you knowledge which is even better. So initially he talks about the relationship between us and Krishna. That is the early chapters. And then he talks about yoga, how to connect with the Supreme Lord. And then he talks about bhakti yoga, particularly devotional service, how to perform devotional service. This is the relationship, how to bring that relationship to fruition. That means, what's the process? What process can I follow so that I will attain this Supreme Person? I will attain Lord Krishna's lotus feet. So what process would I follow? So that was chapter 9. But chapter 10 will talk about the ultimate goal. So the ultimate goal is to attain me. So if you want to attain me, you need to know about me. So Krishna will start talking about himself. So that we can understand the ultimate goal of our spiritual practices. So that is chapter 10. So therefore, he'll continue. So this knowledge about me, about my position as the Parabrahman, as the Supreme Lord, neither the host of the demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. They know some, but they don't know fully. Not so. My opulences are so great that the devatas sometimes they don't really know fully, and the sages also they don't know it completely. For in every respect, I am the source of the devatas and the sages. So, to know the Creator is not an easy thing because his glories are unlimited. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the Supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only, undeluded among men, is freed from all sins. So the goal of all yoga, the goal of all spiritual activity is to know the Supreme Lord. So when one knows the Supreme Lord, so then one is able to become free of the cycle of birth and death, and he can attain me. So therefore, to know Krishna more, Krishna very briefly gives chapter 10 Bhagavad Gita. So chapter 10 Bhagavad Gita will talk about Krishna's glories to understand how great this Supreme Lord is. But it's very brief. So if we want to know more, then we can hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's when we look into the Puranas. When we read the Puranas, particularly Srimad Bhagavatam, it will give a full description about the Supreme Lord in detail, many, many pastimes. But briefly, chapter 10 will talk about his glories. So after that, that's basically verses 10.1 to 10.6. So 10.6, Krishna will start to reveal. Sorry, from 10.3 onwards, Krishna will start to reveal about his position. So he says, I am the ultimate source. He reveals that he is the Sarva Karana Karanam, the ultimate cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karanam means of all the causes, I am the cause. So Krishna is saying. And here he will summarize it into three things. So number one, he says, I am the source of all good qualities. Any good qualities that you see in anyone or in anywhere, it's all coming from me. So therefore I am the source of all good qualities. I am also the source of all great personalities. All great, wonderful personalities, they are ultimately deriving their good qualities from me only. And I am also the source of all living entities. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? I am the seed-giving father. So all the jivas are coming from the Lord. Just like fire and sparks of fire. Now, when there is a great fire, there are sparks flying about the fire. They are all coming from the fire only. They are like fire, but they are very, very small. They are sparks only, but and they have the quality of fire, and they are coming from the fire. So similarly, we are the souls. We have the same quality as the Supreme Lord, soul, right? Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. But we are very small. Whereas we are very small, therefore we are called Anu, small. Whereas the source of this soul, just like how the spark is coming from the fire is very large. So the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Paramatma is called Vibhu, very, very large. We are Jiva, very, very small, Atma. The Paramatma is Vibhu, very, very big. And we are coming from him, part and parcel, Jiva Amsa Loke, part and parcel of that Supreme Soul. And he is that source of everything. So Krishna is saying here. So therefore, the verses in chapter 10 will go on in this way. Sarva Karana Karanam, all the way up to 10.6. And then from 10.7 to 10.11, Krishna will talk about the pure devotional service which will bring one to this understanding about the Supreme Lord. How to fully understand, even the Devatas and even the sages cannot fully understand the Supreme Lord. But the pure devotees of the Lord can understand the Spirit, the Supreme Lord. So how to become a pure devotee? A pure devotion is called Ananya Bhakti. That means, Ananya means not mixed with anything, not mixed with karma, not mixed with jnana, not mixed with any other desires. The desire is purely only to serve the Supreme Lord. So that kind of bhakti is called pure bhakti or Ananya Bhakti. So how he talks about this Ananya Bhakti. So by following the process of Ananya Bhakti, pure devotion, very, very firm faith of Krishna can be attained, but it begins with having that firm faith also. We have to bring ourselves to be fully convinced about the supremacy and the greatness of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, he will give this verse 10.7. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there is no doubt. So, this is basically talking about faith. When we're talking about convinced, that means we're talking about faith. So, we need to develop very strong faith by the practice of devotional service. When we have very strong faith that Krishna is God, Krishna is supreme, Krishna is all-powerful, so then we will completely surrender to him. So that is necessary, right? So therefore he says, he gives the Chatur Sloka, very, very important verses in the Bhagavad Gita, the 4 Chatur Sloka. Chatur means 4, the 4 important shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita. So first he will say, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matha sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajanti mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. So he says, one who knows that Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, that I am the Lord of all creation. So one who is firmly convinced that I am the Lord of all creation. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. Prabhava means Lord and Master of all creation, Sarvasya, of everything. So Mata Sarvam Pravartate. So in this way, iti matha bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. So one who knows this about me, about my position of supreme position, what he will do after knowing the supreme position and being very convinced about the greatness of the Supreme Lord, what he will do? He will dedicate his life and his consciousness in worshipping that person, worshipping me. Iti matva bhajate mam. Bhajante means to worship me with great attention. Bhava samanvita. So by worshipping me, he becomes very intelligent. Buddha. Simply by worshipping the Supreme Lord, one becomes Buddha, very intelligent, because he worships me with careful and great attention. So therefore, this is the real point. By taking up devotional service very carefully and properly, right, one can develop real intelligence, the real spiritual intelligence, not the material intelligence, the real spiritual intelligence, Buddha, and in this way we can attain his lotus feet. So that is basically the first sloka. Who is worthy of worship? One who is, who is the person who we should worship? So Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, the person who is the source of everything. So this is the translation of this verse. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. Mata Sarvam Pravartate. Everything comes from me. The wise, the Buddha, the intelligent and the wise who perfectly know this, what do? They engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. They dedicate themselves, their lives, their minds, their intelligence, everything. So this is Ananya Bhakti, pure devotional service. So how do we recognize these people? How to recognize them? So therefore, Krishna continues with the second Chatur Shloka. The next verse, 10.9, very famous verse also, we should remember. Matchita madgata prana bodayantaha parasparam katayantascha mam nityam tusyanti cha ramanti cha. So very, very important verse. How do we know who are these pure devotees? How do we know whether we are getting that kind of, whether we are attaining that situation? So here the shloka is given how to recognize a pure devotee. So the translation is Matchita Madgata Prana. The thoughts, chitta. Chitta means the thoughts, intelligence or mind, the consciousness. So the consciousness of my pure devotees, they dwell in me, mat, on me. Their consciousness is upon me. So therefore, Krishna conscious. So that's why Prabhupada named this the Krishna Consciousness Society. So we want to try to develop Krishna consciousness, Mat Chitta, Krishna Chitta. And Madgata Prana, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service. Madgata Prana. Prana means their lives, and Gata comes from the word Gati. That means the goal of their life is to attain me. That is their goal of their life. So they make Krishna as the goal of their life. And then what do? Katayantascha mam nityam. They derive great satisfaction and bliss by always talking about me and conversing about me. Katayantascha. Kata means comes from the word kata. What kind of kata? Kata story. Always telling each other, Katayantascha mam nityam. Nityam means always. Always talking about talking about me, mam, talking about Krishna amongst each other. And in this way, they derive Tusyanticha Ramanticha. They derive great satisfaction and bliss. Tusyanti is satisfaction, Ramanti is bliss. So this is what they do. This is what devotees do. Always talking and hearing and chanting about Krishna's names, glories, pastimes, stories, all these things. So this is the definition of devotees, the pure and unalloyed Ananya Bhaktas. And it's not only meant for sannyasis. We can all do it. Bhakti Yoga, it's open for anyone, even in the householder life. We simply have to have our goal and focus towards Krishna in everything that we do. How to do this? So this is the secrets of devotional service. So we have to ask questions. How to do this? How to practically do this, right? So this is very nicely described by the Guru. The Guru will give us instructions on how to go about to do this. There are many shastras also telling us to do this. Like we read Srimad Bhagavatam, it will give you many examples on how we can practically do this. Also other books like Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that book will give us a lot of details about how to practically execute pure devotional service. All right, so now we understood how to recognize pure devotees. So what does Krishna do for them? So what does Krishna do for these pure devotees? So he mentions in the third Chatur Sloka, 10.10, very important verse. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam ye namam upayantite. So translation is, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, what do I do for them? I give the understanding, by which they can come to me. So Krishna will give the understanding. The knowledge will come. So understanding means how will they know? So there are two ways the Lord will act. So one is through the Guru. Externally, he will give the understanding, but internally also we will understand. How? How is this? So Krishna will, it sounds mystical, but Krishna will give his explanation. So that is the fourth Chatursloki, 10-11. Tesham evanukam partam aham ajnana jam tamaha nasayami atma bhavasto jnana dipena spashvataha. So Krishna says, to show them special mercy, so Krishna will act because Krishna is in our heart as Paramatma. So the moment he sees that we are trying to attain him from in our heart next to our soul, is the super soul, from our heart, he will destroy the darkness born of ignorance. How? Through the shining lamp of knowledge. So the moment we dedicate our lives like this, how do we dedicate our lives? Basically, a great dedication is to start chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? To follow the regulative principles of, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. To follow this and to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra daily and to constantly hear the scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. By doing these things, Krishna sees our effort, Krishna sees our dedication, and from within our heart, he will purify our heart. Our intelligence becomes purified. We will start understanding more and more what the scriptures are telling us, what Krishna is telling us in the Bhagavad Gita. He will show us the way, how we can attain him. So more and more, these verses will make sense to us. More and more, we will see these experiences in our lives. So you will see a lot of reciprocation between Krishna and us as we move on in our lives. Our experiences, more and more, many things will start making sense. So this is how Krishna, using that light of knowledge, destroys the darkness from within our heart. So that is what Krishna will do. So that is Ananya Bhakti. Okay, so then chapter 10 continues. After hearing this, Arjuna becomes fully convinced. So here, Krishna will stop talking. And then Arjuna will say, oh, Krishna, I am fully convinced with all that you have said. My intelligence is already re-established. It's already purified. My illusion is already gone. Actually, at that time, his illusion is already lifted already. He is fully re-established again. Even in chapter 9 and chapter 10 already is done, right? After that, Arjuna simply asks for details. From chapter 13 onwards, more and more details will come. But his heart is already won. So therefore, in chapters 10, verses 12 to 15, you will find how Arjuna accepts Krishna. So he calls Krishna by many names. He glorifies Krishna by beautiful names. He calls him Purushottama. Purushottama means Purusha Uttama, the supreme person. Uttama means the supreme, the topmost. Topmost, that's a better word, topmost person. He calls him Bhuta Bhavana. Bhuta Bhavana means living entities. So Bhavana means the shelter of all living entities. Everything rests in, all living entities rests in him. Bhuta Bhavana. He calls him Bhutesha, the Lord of all living entities. Isha means controller and Lord. So therefore Bhuta Isha, the controller and Lord of all living entities. He calls him Deva Deva, the Lord of Lords. He calls him Jagat Pate, the Lord of the universe, the Lord and protector. Pati means Lord and protector. Just like husband is also called Pati, right? So therefore, Pati means Lord and Protector of the universe, Jagat Pati. He calls him Parabrahma, Param Brahma, the Supreme Brahman, right? Just like we are all, there's Brahman and there is Param Brahman, the Supreme Brahman, right? The source of that Brahman, the spirit. Brahma means spirit. So there is spirit, we are all spirit, and there is the Supreme Spirit. Param Dhamma, and this Supreme Spirit has a place. He comes from the Supreme Dham. Dham means world, the Supreme planet or the Supreme abode. And that Supreme abode is known as Vaikunta or Goloka Dham, Goloka Vrindavan. So like that, that's Param Dham. So he's talking about the Supreme abode. And then Arjuna calls him Pavitram Paramam. That means he is the supreme purifier. Pavitra means purify. Paramam, amongst all, he's the ultimate supreme purifier of everything. And then he calls him Paramam Purusham, the supreme Purusha. Purusha means the enjoyer, the ultimate enjoyer. He's the ultimate enjoyer of everything. God is the greatest enjoyer. All this creation is for him to enjoy. Therefore, Lakshmi serves him directly. Shashvatam. So, Shashvatam means eternal. Oh, you are eternal. Divyam, transcendental, beyond matter. You are Adi Devam, the original Lord, original Supreme Lord. And you are Ajam. Ajam means you are without birth. You don't have a source. Nobody created you. You are Ajam means without birth. And you are also Vibhum. Vibhum means one who is the greatest, largest, extremely big, extremely large. So these are all the different things that Arjuna will say to Lord Krishna. And then after saying all these things, he will say, not only I am saying, I'm convinced now after what you have said, but other people have also said this about you. So then he says from verses 10, 15 and all the great sages like Narada, Ashita, Devala, Vyasa, so many people, Shukadev, all of them have also confirmed this same truth, which you have told, which I have now confirmed, and others have also said the same thing. And even the great devatas sometimes don't fully understand you, because not all of them are Ananya Bhakti Bhaktas. Some of them are mixed Bhaktas. So only the few Ananya Bhaktas can understand you. So then, because you are so mysterious, you are so wondrous, and it's not easy to understand you, and I am trying to take up this Ananya Bhakti, Arjuna is telling. So therefore, Krishna, O Supreme Mystic, please tell me, how shall I constantly think of you? So that's a natural question, right? So if we want to take up this devotional service, how to consciously think of him? Krishna says, right, Mat Chitta, always think of me. Mat Chitta, Mat Gata Prana. So how to constantly think of you? And how shall I know you? Vidyam, Aham. How to know you? Please tell me. In what various forms are you to be remembered, O Bhagavan? Arjuna will ask. So this is to help us to develop this consciousness that Krishna, so that we can remember Krishna in everything that we do and in everything that we see or feel or experience in this world. So, sometimes we will say, oh, in front of the altar, I can remember Krishna. But once I turn away from the altar, when I'm busy doing other things, I cannot remember Krishna. So how to always remember Krishna in our work, in our duties, in our activities. So therefore, Arjuna will ask, oh Janardana, again, please describe in detail your yogam vibhudim, your great mystic opulences and your power, so that we can always remember the Lord. And Arjuna will say, I am never satisfied. I'm never satiated in hearing about you. I want to hear more and more. So he'll say, Triptir hi srunavato nashti me mritam. I am never satisfied. Nashti me. Nashti me means not satisfied. Tripti. Triptam comes from the word tripti. I'm never satisfied hearing about you. I want more and more to hear. So for the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words. So please go on telling me about your yogam vibhutim, your yogam aishwaryam. So therefore, Krishna from verses 10.16 all the way to 10.42 will satisfy Arjuna's inquiry. He will tell all the different ways about his supreme position. He will begin by telling Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhutasya Stitaha. So he says, oh, okay, you have asked to know about my manifestations, but I can only tell you a few and which are prominent because really my glories are unlimited. They are na asti antaha. They are limitless. There is no limit. So we can go on and on. You know, you have a Mahabharata war to fight. So Duryodhana is waiting for you. So I will just tell you some main things, right? And you can get the idea from there. So that's what Krishna is saying. And the first thing he tells Arjuna is Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhutasha Stitaha. So Arjuna is also known as Gudakesha, one of the names of Arjuna, the conqueror of sleep. That's the meaning of the name Gudakesha. He has conquered sleep. Arjuna has conquered sleep. So he says, I am the Paramatma, Aham Atma, Sarva Bhutasya Stitaha. So I am that Atma which is situated, Stitaha, in the Asaya, in the heart, in the hearts of all Bhutas, living entities. I am that Atma who is situated in the hearts of all living entities. Sarva Bhutasya Stitaha. So in other words, I am the Paramatma. Krishna is revealing to Arjuna. So this is the proof. Krishna is that Paramatma. And after that he goes on, of all creations, I am the beginning, the middle, and the end. So anything which is created, all creations, you could say that I am the beginning of all creations, I am the middle of all creations, I am the end of all creations also. So this is how we can remember the Supreme Lord. And he goes on like this, saying many, many things. So I am just going to take out a few things. Here I'm going to mention a very important point where Krishna will say. So he will say in the same way, Yajnanam Japa Yajnyo Asmi. Now one can know Krishna by devotion, which is a form of sacrifice. So Krishna says, amongst all sacrifices, Yajnanam Japo Yajnyo Asmi. Among all sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy names. So I am the chanting of the holy names. So here's the proof that chanting is the king of all yagyas. It is the topmost spiritual activity. And that, what is the holy names, right? Is the holy names given, right? The chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is mentioned in the Kali Shantarana Upanishad. So Yajnanam Japa Yagnusmi. Amongst all the yagyas, Japa is the topmost. I am the Japa amongst all sacrifice. And then Krishna will continue. Like that, there are many, many things he goes on, all the way from 10:16 to 10:42. So more than 30 verses. But I'm not going to list them all. I'm just going to list a few. So Krishna will say, among the Munis, I am Bhrigu. Bhrigu is a famous Muni. Among the Devarishis, the sages amongst the Devatas, the heavenly sages, I am Narada. Among the priests, I am Brihaspati, Guru. Among the beasts, the animals, I am like the lion. Among the birds, I am Garuda. Among the Devatas, you can imagine me as Indra. Among the Rudras, I am Shiva. Among the generals, I am Kartikeya. Among the judges, I am Yamaraj. Among the senses, I am the mind, the king of the senses. Among all poetry, I am the beautiful Gayatri poetry. Among creators, I am Brahma. Among lights, I am the sun. Among cows, I am Shurabi cow. Among the Nagas, I am Adisej, Anantasej. Among immovable things, I am like the Himalayas. Among water bodies, I am the ocean. Among trees, I am the banyan tree, Arsamaram. Among secrets, I am silence. Among subduers, I am time. Among sciences, I am the science of the soul, Atma Tattva. Among vibrations, I am the vibration Om. Among rivers, I am the Ganga. Among fishes, I am the shark. And among the seasons, I am spring. So like that, he goes on many things further, he says. So after going on like this, so Krishna here is trying to give us how we can always remember Krishna. So, after summer, after winter, when spring comes, when we see the first blossoms of flowers, we can remember Krishna, because Krishna said this in the Bhagavad Gita. So when we see a lion, we can remember, we see any animals, we can remember the king of all the animals is lion, and Krishna has said, I am like the lion. So when we see trees, we can remember Krishna, especially when we see the banyan tree. So like this, different ways. And he will say, later on also he will talk among that I am the taste of water, I am the light of the sun. That one he will continue in chapter 11 or chapter 12. So like that, many ways Krishna gives on how we can be always Matchita, always thinking of Krishna. So then Krishna will come to a conclusion. So there is no being moving or non-moving that can exist without me. So then Krishna will say, know that all opulent and beautiful and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. So anything that is wonderful, wondrous, great, beautiful, it is simply coming from just a spark. Ekam sena, eka amsa ena. Eka means one, just a one spark. Amsa means spark. Just from that one spark, so many beautiful, splendorous things are coming from me. This entire universe, this Jagat is coming from me. So this is the great splendor. So it's important for us to understand about the greatness of God, because we need to know what is God actually, what kind of power. Because nowadays in Kali Yuga, people take God very cheaply. Simply someone comes and tells you that, I can produce ash from my hand, or I can cure your disease, I can do so many things, or they can fly, they can walk on water, and then people think they are God. Oh, and then they start worshipping. So they don't realize that God is much more than all this. This is the power or the standard of who one can claim to be the supreme Param Brahma, the great personality of Godhead. And hearing about all these things increases our faith on that supreme person. So such is that person. Therefore, Prabhupada tells, don't tell your problems to Krishna. Go and tell your problems about Krishna. So if we are having problems in life, don't go and tell the problem, look, I am my Lord is so powerful. What are you? What are you in front of my Lord? So you better go away from me. So it's an understanding. So it helps to strengthen our surrender and our faith that he will take care of everything, that he will take care of all situations. All he requires is that we surrender to him. So with that, we'd like to end. We can give in one of the processes of surrender. Very important in the processes of surrender is to always chant his holy names. So by controlling our tongue, we can control our mind. So the tongue and the mind is linked. So that's why mantra is given, japa mantra. By always chanting Hare Krishna, the tongue chanting, the tongue is used to chant Hare Krishna, the tongue is used to eat prasadam. That way the tongue can be controlled. and the mind will automatically follow. So, but as we chant, the mind will also recite. So eventually the consciousness will become purified. The mind becomes controlled. So this is the food for our soul, right? So let us chant together. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Tat Sat. Jai Srila Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Sri Krishna Bhagavan ki Jai. So thank you very much everyone for attending this session, giving your time to hear the glories of the Supreme Lord. So if there are any questions, anything you'd like to ask or clarify, feel free to do so. You can either put in the chat, or you can unmute yourself, or you can also type in your chat, or you can call me anytime, no problem. So happy to answer anything by Prabhupada's mercy. Okay, so if there are no questions, then thank you again so much. I'll see you again in the next session. Hare Krishna. Have a pleasant evening. Hare Krishna Mataji.